Hi, this is Rob Ryder speaking out of West Cornwall, and I'd just like to do a little bit of a conversation about this is the book we wrote with Patrick Quanton, Conscious Humanity. And within the book, there's a chapter called Global Leaders with a Common Purpose. I'm just going to explain what that means now. So I was out working early Thursday morning because I knew it was going to rain heavy all day. So I'll get a little bit done. And everyone knew it was going to rain. The forecast was clear. And you see along the high street where all the shops are, which looks nice in summer, they have the hanging baskets that the council maintain, the local council, all with flowers in. Okay, it attracts people to the town centre. Great. As usual, Thursday morning, it's watering the hanging baskets day. Everyone knew the forecast, and by the time I'd got halfway down doing my work, it had even started to rain. But obviously they continue right through the town on this electric van with a diesel generator in the back connected to what looked like 500 or 1,000 litre tank of water with a hose that they then watered the hanging baskets throughout the town. It's not the first time I've seen this when it was going to rain. I've seen it in the rain. And so the title of this video will be called Watering Flowers in the Rain. And you have to ask, what is that all about? Now, most people will see that, have a bit of a laugh, a bit of a giggle, think, oh, the council again, they're at it. They don't know what they're doing. Really? Yeah, they don't know what they're doing. That is the main thing. People don't know the deep, deep psychology that is behind that, which is happening right throughout, especially the Western world, and how a system would manifest in people watering flowers in the rain. And I'm pretty sure I never asked them, because I'm going beyond asking people now insane questions. But why are you watering flowers in the rain? I'm sure they would say, well, it's Thursday. And you say, yeah, but it's raining. Oh, it's my job. That's the reply. Would be the reply, I presume. And you've got to think where all this is coming from. Yeah, because it is funny on one level, but it's quite sinister on another level, watering flowers in the rain. So we look at I think it was 2019, the Cornwall Council declared a climate emergency in our name without asking us. So I was at a local meeting. They were going round basically getting consent. So they were organising the green agenda, green economy meetings of what they're putting forward, and legally in their system they have to get consent. But they don't really advertise the meetings. They put on these little shows and tables of the green economy, what they're going to do in Cornwall, but they don't really advertise it. But because few of us know what's going on, we've been going to these meetings dotted around Cornwall. So I went to my local one, and the first thing I asked the guy who seemed to be the leader there, he was actually on the cabinet in Cornwall Council, I asked him, is he a public servant or a leader of the people? To which he didn't really answer, didn't even seem to understand the question. Then I started giving him some mainstream accepted factual climate data, which he said, oh, that's a bit of these conspiracy theories, which I abruptly interrupted and reminded him not to be so rude, that he's a public servant actually on duty at the moment, and that I'm giving him mainstream facts and he should be respectful. And when I asked him, did he actually know the climate science himself, he said he's not looked into it. Yeah, so this is one of the main members of Cornwall Council pushing the green economy, declaring a climate emergency in our name, and he hasn't even looked at the science. Anyone who is challenging it is a conspiracy theorist. And he said in his words, well, we can't have a referendum, we can't ask the people about everything. Well, there might be some mundane, trivial things that you don't need to ask that you just do. But declaring a climate emergency and all the consequences of that without asking the people, I think, you know, that should be our decision as a community in Cornwall. So then he said, I'm a minority, part of an extreme minority of people with extreme views. There was about 40 people at the meeting, looking at all the tables that had been set out. I asked everyone but two at that meeting who was there. I know a few people, but everybody, I made sure I got round. There was two people I didn't get time to get round for. Every single one didn't believe in a climate emergency, didn't think the green economy and agenda they're pushing was even green, and wasn't in agreement. So I certainly wasn't in a minority. And then the little dockets that the public are allowed to fill in and put their opinions, he was shown to be filling them in himself. And when he was asked, why are you filling them in? He said, well, I'm a member of the public. Yeah, but at that moment, it was a public servant on duty. It wasn't for him to fill in a document. If he's got his own personal local meeting and he's not on duty, fair, give your opinion. So the whole thing was skewed. Oh yeah, we want to legally get consent, but if you don't give it, we're going to do it anyway. Yeah, which we'll come to in a couple of minutes with common purpose. So the council of, and I'm going to presume this is happening around the country, but here we have these green wheelie bins. Now, I've no idea how many litres they hold. Let's just say, for example, 100 litres of waste. And they'll probably last forever. Now, there's a lot of energy that's gone into producing them. They're made out of plastic, which isn't a great thing, but it's done. It's done, and they'll probably last forever. So now, to save the planet, instead of having a weekly collection and a fortnightly recycle collection, they're going to go weekly recycle, fortnightly waste. Okay, fair enough. Promote recycling. Well, another issue is why we're having all this rubbish and packaging in the first place, which is not the consumer's fault. Again, that doesn't even come into it. They just look at the end, what's happening at the end, and blame the members of the public. But that's slightly another issue, even though it is connected. So to save the planet, we've got two new bins. We've got a food waste bin for in the kitchen and a food plastic waste bin for outside. So you've got all that plastic being produced. Yeah, who can afford to waste food nowadays anyway? I don't know. With the way the economy is, I think we're all scraping our plates. So they've been produced, and now they've got a smaller black wheelie bin. Now, let's say, for example, it's 75 litres of waste. It's probably, I don't really know the figures, but I'm just trying to show an example that it's smaller, which is going to be collected every 2 weeks. So you've got less space, less collections. All the energy that's gone into produce them extra bins, all the extra plastic that's now in circulation that has been produced. The green bins, what on earth are they going to do with them? I have no idea. On some of the wagons that they're delivering all these bins, you can probably, at a guess, maybe 40, 50 bins at a time they can deliver. How many thousands upon thousands of bins need delivering in Cornwall? If this was about saving energy, CO2, the environment, all that production into them new bins, the bins that are going to be, what on earth they're going to do, I don't know. All the diesel on the vans delivered in how many thousands upon thousands of new wheelie bins. The end product of that, people are going to be pushing the waste in further and further to squash the bins down because it's only fortnight delivery, less bins. Then if that isn't enough, they'll be using their own petrol to drive to the main waste area to deliver their own rubbish. More energy, more fuel. Eventually, I believe they'll actually be charging for that, even though it's supposed to be free at the moment. I think they'll be charging for that. Always blame the consumer, always blaming the consumer. Never look at the chain of events that led up to that. Blame the people all the time. That is another version of the insanity of the green agenda. You ask them about what they're pushing with solar panels. blanketing fields with solar panels. The toxicity on the planet to produce them alone. And then in 20, 25, whatever years, what are they going to do with them? Yeah, what are they going to do with all them panels when they're beyond their working life? Then you've got the wind turbines that are all over Cornwall. What happens when their lifespan is gone? We know that at least the turbines that go around are not recyclable. Yeah. No thought process, even if there was a climate emergency, which I certainly don't believe there is, even if CO2 was a problem, which I don't believe it is, it wouldn't make sense anyway. But watering flowers in the rain. Slightly off subject, but I remember when the nurses went on strike and threw the shirts down within the lockdown because they didn't want the jab. Nurses and doctors. I went to the rally in Truro to support them, even though it was a bit half-hearted because I could already see the hypocrisy behind what they were doing, which I'll explain in a second. But for the troops, you could say, I thought, well, I'll go to the rally, support them. On the surface, it looked like they had a victory. You know, pressure meant that they didn't force the jab on NHS workers, and then people thought they had a great victory. I kept my mouth shut, but I said to one or two friends, listen, these are hypocrites. Why do they not want to take the jab? That's the first question. Why? Yeah. The only reason can be because they know it's dangerous. They don't want to take a risk. They won their little, had their day, had their little victory. What did they do? All back to work. Oh, I don't have to have that jab, but I'll inject everybody else. That's this part of this mindset as well. So it all comes down to a common purpose mindset, global leaders with a common purpose. So common purpose was what is known as a political charity discovered by Brian Gerrish, working out of Plymouth many years ago. And basically they created leaders. They train people to be leaders, and they're placed in all areas of public life, public servants, the police, local councils, local government, the NHS, everywhere, businesses. And the book that the founder, Julia Middleton, wrote was called Beyond Authority, which means this is what we want to do, this is where we're going to, doesn't matter what rules and regulations are in the way, we just go through them all, And this is why we have public servants who are public servants, they're not my leaders, but they don't even know if they're a public servant or a leader anymore. In their minds, they think they're leaders, even though there's that confusion that they, oh yeah, I'm a public servant. Yeah, but you're not even serving people. If you're a public servant, you do what the people say, regardless of your own opinion. Yeah, a servant doesn't tell the master what to do. It's the master-slave relationship. The public servants are supposed to be the slaves of the people. They don't have to agree with what policies we want, but it's our communities, therefore our policies. But they're not asking. Yeah, they've got their agenda. Doesn't matter what gets in the way, even if it's public opinion, we'll just bulldoze through. Beyond authority. And this is a bit of research I've done for the book. So yeah, the book, Beyond Authority, Leadership in a Changing World. So on the Common Purpose website, which this may be a year, 18 months ago, they now boast of having 105,000 leaders worldwide, 7,000 more participants each year, and are managing 100 large cities globally. Now, 100 large cities globally, okay, believe that, but I would say Common Purpose, when it got exposed by the UK column, it kind of, I won't say it went underground, but it's gone abroad. It's in India, Canada, Australia, America, all these places. But there are other versions of it, should we say. I will tell you, every council in Britain, and even your local little councils, parish councils, are run by the common purpose mentality. Yeah, they don't have to have common purpose leaders in there anymore, because the mentality of how these people get into positions is the same. It's the mentality that's driving it. Leading beyond authority. You're not a public servant, you're a leader of the public. They're ignorant, they don't know what they're doing, we know what's best for them. It's the mentality that's behind it. And you look at the World Economic Forum, well known, they have their high level global leaders. So the whole world, Western world especially, has leaders. We do not have public servants anymore. In fact, we probably never did, but we had, maybe at least people who were sincere in what they were doing. We do not have public servants anymore at all. So what you have is these leaders who will pass their courses and become global leaders, local leaders, national leaders, if they agree on certain policies like climate catastrophe, pandemic policies, policing policies. If you believe in certain policies, you will pass the course. It's just no different than in schools nowadays. If you want to get your GCSE, you just have to repeat what you've been told. It's irrelevant whether it's true. You will only get your pass if you repeat the information correctly and get the correct answer. So that you have the global leaders, which are there nationally and locally, and then below that, you have the workers who are just doing the job, watering flowers on a rainy day. I've stated, I'll try and put a link to it actually below on the mindset of order followers that I did on my friend's channel a few years back regarding Waco and the police. I think this was maybe before, no, it's about the lockdown. So it's horrific order following during the lockdown. So it ends with the leaders, and then at the bottom of the pie, you've just got workers following orders. Again, watering flowers in the rain. I've had the privilege of living in the Amazon for a year. I spent more time there as well, but I lived there for a year. You get out. I lived in a biggest town called Iquitos. So in the town, 2:30 in the afternoon, everyone's asleep because it's siesta time. It's so hot. Me and my daughter, she was about 5 at the time, went into the local square. Nobody there because it was hot, apart from a local kind of community police officer woman. So there was a bench, and the benches along there, and me and my daughter lay on it. So my head was there, her head was there, stretched out like that, and we're just looking up at the sky and just chatting. So bloke with his 5-year-old daughter lay on a bench chatting, and the police officer come up. Obviously nobody else around. You're not allowed to lie on the benches. Okay, so maybe that rule come about. Maybe there was some homeless or drunks who were lying there. Maybe it happened once and they brought in a rule. Right, nobody can ever do that. So that gets to the point where now a bloke with his 5-year-old daughter looking at the sky, talking head to head, having a nice conversation, gets told to sit up, and there's nobody about, not even anyone to disturb. That's another manifestation. So wherever there's bigger populations, you get more rules, more control. You go out into the villages along the Amazon, there's no rules. People just live in simple lives. There are no rules. People just do whatever they need to do because they know they need to do it or they'll die. If you don't fish, you don't eat. If you don't look after your crops, you don't eat. You don't fix the roof, you get flooded when it's raining. People just do whatever they need to do. This is really where we're at. And when people are observing these things, and we laugh at these things, we laugh at people. You look at the Western people, how they cannot control dogs. They have no understanding of dogs. They treat them like human beings. and you see people shouting at the dogs, "Oh, he never listens to me." Well, doesn't speak your language, mate. It's the level of human consciousness where it's got to, especially in the West. Look at a lot of, not our dog owners, but a lot of dog owners. They just simply have no control over the dogs, because dogs will only listen to calm, assertive energy. They won't listen to clowns and frustration and shouting and anger. They don't get anything out of that. You look at some of the things you see people doing. The lockdown was obviously extreme. The police put in ink in a beautiful pristine lake to make it black so it wouldn't be as nice, so people won't come out of lockdown. You know, I mean, the insanity's taken over. And when people are seeing these things and laughing at it, you need to see that there's a lot more serious psychology going on there. And one thing I will say is these primitive people who live along the Amazon, you will never see them watering flowers in the rain.